Good morning, Don't Unfriend Me Nation. Yeah, it's super early and I'm just out of bed. You can hear it in the voice. It's always raspy in the morning. The allergies, the eyes are poofy. I mean, it's just one of those things. But sometimes when you're scrolling through the threads and the feeds and all that, you don't care what you look like. You don't care that you literally look like death warmed over. No, I wasn't drinking last night. This is what happens in old age. You get the allergies all year long. You look like you just did a kegger, and it is what it is. So luckily I'm not vain, but I am frustrated. And when I'm scrolling through the Twitter feed and Facebook and my news media sites and all that other stuff, I ran across a video from Joy Reid from MSNBC. Now this is a person I don't like in the slightest. Everything out of her mouth makes me cringe. I find very little value. I always try to find something I can agree with people on, and she's just one of them that I just can't agree with. And honestly, she should run for Congress, because I would put her with the ilk of Ilhan Omar and Rashid Tlaib and AOC and Nancy Pelosi and all the other dregs of political society. I can't understand her disposition on life. But today was just a special kind of day. It's because there's a movie that I absolutely adore called Tropic Thunder. Most of you have probably seen the movie. And it's essentially a modern day Blazing Saddles. And Blazing Saddles was unique in the sense that it offended everybody. And there was language in it that was inappropriate, but it didn't really have the eye candy shock and awe. Yeah, there was Madeline Stowe or Madeline Kahn, excuse me, Madeline Stowe. She was probably like 12, but Madeline Kahn, who was in, circus get up and, bustier and all of that. And then there was some mild sexual innuendo with kielbasa sausages and all of this, or Schnitzengrubeln or whatever it was. Baby, please, 12 Schnitzengrubeln are my limit. But whatever. But it had a very dirty topic, and it treaded on a lot of topics that were sensitive during the time: racial injustice, sexism, homophobia. I mean, it did it all. I mean, Jews. I mean, the Mel Brooks went after everybody, and that's what was great about it. But of course, the left has canceled this. Now, Tropic Thunder is a lot more controversial. There's drugs, racism, blackface, mental retardation is covered, homophobia. I mean, it's everywhere, but it really does tackle it through humor. And it kind of has always had like this carte blanche pass, is that you had to let humor live in the moment that it was created in. And no matter how offensive it is in modern day times, you kind of let it stand. But this new woke culture has slapped it down. Now, this is a prime example with Joy Reid. Now, why do I bring up Tropic Thunder? Well, because obviously the left is making constant attacks on anything that goes against today's narrative and anything that could possibly impede its value to them, and the intrinsic value of wokeness, and shutting it and wanting to censor it out of existence. Now, this is probably the most, I'm being very careful here, not because it's so early and my brain's not, and synapses isn't firing. It's there. It's just, I want to make sure I convey this properly, because the emotional frustration that I have from this is difficult to put into words. But Joy Reid literally paints Republicans and Ron DeSantis with the brush that she swaths back and forth every night on her show. And she brings up topics of totalitarianism and censorship and government control and big government, big brothers watching, and all the things that Republicans are completely categorically against. And she tries to sell this trope of fear and paint DeSantis with the same brush that they've painted Reagan with, and Bush, and you can look at Romney and McCain and every single Republican candidate, obviously Trump, for the last 30 years, they always try to sell the narrative. And if this doesn't work, the racism, sexism, homophobia, they'll get them with some sort of, well, here's some skeletons in his closet where these 5 women are claiming that Ron DeSantis was, a physical oppressor and he assaulted them. And then they're going to go ahead and do that 3 months before the election. Then they're going to disappear into anonymity. The problem here is that this is what the left does. And it's like clockwork. Around 15 to 16 months before the election, you start seeing them dwindle down the primary candidates. And it's really obvious that it's going to be DeSantis and Trump. Those are the 2 front runners. Trump is ahead by a ton. But DeSantis, who just announced a week and a half ago, it's interesting to see that his numbers are not dropping and they're staying fairly consistent out of some states, of course, like California with a large population and a very large support for Donald Trump. But the left media is a little scared of DeSantis, so they're going to begin doing these things. Now, I want you to take this in humor. I know Facebook isn't going to like this. I know other platforms are going to say, well, this is wrong. You can't do this. Well, yes, I can, because this is what humor is all about. It's designed to laugh at Joy Reid because she is a public figure. She deserves to be laughed at as much as I deserve to be laughed at with my small audience. So enjoy this with me. Take a few seconds and watch Joy Reid melt down upon all of us and tell us that our democracy is once again in jeopardy from Ron DeSantis. Joy Reid, the reason why I brought up Tropic Thunder, besides the fact that she hates the movie and thinks that blackface is wrong, unless it's somebody else doing it on the left, like Jimmy Kimmel, or when Whoopi Goldberg did it with Ted Danson, or anyone else, including Joy Behar, also dressed in blackface. Those things are okay. But when an actor like Robert Downey Jr., they don't know which button to push. Robert Downey, who's woke and left, or that he dressed in blackface. What do? We can't figure it out. Well, the reason I brought it up to begin with is Joy Behar looks like Simple Jack. I hate to say it. I've watched this lady's this transformation that she's went through over the last 10 years as wokeism and feminism had just literally rotted her brain and her outward appearance. And now she's doing something with her hair that truly resembles Simple Jack. So every time that I feel that she deserves it, I'm going to hit her with a "You make me happy" every time. And you'll have a picture of Simple Jack in a second. Enjoy Reid's form. I've decided to go ahead and take Simple Jack's likeness and put Joy over the top. And it's very fitting. You'll see it throughout the video. Let's watch.
About destroying wokeism is that if he's elected president.
So immediately destroying wokeism. So that's exactly, DeSantis isn't trying to destroy wokeism. He's trying to shed light on how stupid wokeism is. I have a saying and some shirts and some hats and stuff. Yes, I'm pimping my merchandise at thedumbshow.com. You can go over there and get them. But it's awake, not woke. And what it's saying is it's like, we're not trying to replace the word woke. What we're saying is we were never asleep. Everyone knew there was slavery. Everyone knew there was racism and sexism in the world. We understand that gays and lesbians didn't have the same rights and equality that we all do. Who doesn't know these things? And why do we have to go ahead and say, hey, man, I was asleep, but now because you've come up to me and touched me with your knowledge, that all of a sudden I'm now woke and I'm a part of a club. If you don't know these things and you haven't been paying attention, then you're part of the problem. You don't need to sit here and say that all of a sudden I just woke up because some sort of campaign or some sort of 3-dot company decided to go ahead and enter my corporation and tell me that white males used to oppress women. Yeah, I know that, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I was asleep to it or that I was contributing to it. But this is the whole woke ideology.
The federal government would ignore your material and economic needs and instead would micromanage every aspect of your life.
Kind of like locking down, kind of like making sure what we can and cannot have, what we can and cannot read, what we can and cannot do in our homes. Who's the one who banned To Kill a Mockingbird in California? I don't think that was the Republicans. Listen, this is a mutual thing that happens across parties, is people trying to predict and also dictate what Americans should and should should not do. And I don't like this on either side. But to sit here and say that Republicans want to enter your home and control what you do, that's ridiculous. Now, when it comes to abortion, that's the first thing they're going to say. Well, they want to control my body and my self-autonomy. Well, it's not bodily autonomy the moment that you're pregnant, because there is another life involved. And the singularity of self-autonomy is singular for a reason. The moment you add a life and another life and that person's responsibility for that life into the equation, bodily autonomy is thrown out and it's subjective to those standards. So don't give me that crap. Everything else, we really don't care what you do. Just leave our kids alone. Let us have our guns. Let us have our religion, and don't get involved in our lives. We don't want the government being an economic stability for us. We want them to leave us alone. And if we didn't have to pay taxes and we didn't have to put money into Social Security, I promise you that we could do better things with that money than the U.S. government has, because we're not the one who literally broke Social Security. We're not the ones that are selling bonds since 2010s against Social Security that raises the deficit and that we have to pay for with taxpayer dollars. I bet you didn't know that, because people are saying, well, wait a second, Social Security is not entitlement. Yes, it is. It's been broke since 2010, and we've been subsidizing it, the American taxpayer, twice, 3 times, sometimes even 4 times in order to save it. It's not what you think it is.
So I guess the DeSantis administration would move to replace the boards of every one of the approximately 6,000 public universities in this country.
Well, here's the thing. It depends on what those boards are doing. If the governor of a state has the right to go ahead and question and replace board members, superintendents, principals, anything else, because that's their job. Education is first and foremost the state's responsibility. And even though they receive federal funding, that doesn't necessarily mean that the federal government gets to decide. For you to sit here and say that Ron DeSantis would have the power to usurp as a president and change all the board members and tell all the governors what to do is a fallacy and a stretch, to say the least.
Thinks are too woke, like he did it to New College in Florida. And he's going to need some de facto morality police to monitor what you read.
De facto morality police. So by having morality police that are there in the de facto state of not existing, we're not the ones that wanted to create the ministry of truth. And you wanted to have a czar look over all social media and approve what could be said and what could not. Do you remember when Joe Biden did that and they backpedaled literally in a week and fired that crazy lady who was just the bug-eyed girl singing Disney show tunes on the air? Yeah, no, wrong party, lady.
Banned books in America's 90,000 odd public schools.
We don't ban books. We simply decide that we don't want our children smoking cigarettes, drinking alcohol, driving a car, reading pornography, firing off weapons, joining the military, or voting before the appropriate age. And that's including books that are inappropriate. Parents still have the right to do that with our children, no matter what you say, no matter what you do. And speaking of government overreach, doesn't that sound like government overreach, that you want public schools to decide what's appropriate for our children, whether it's they're having thoughts of suicide or questioning their sexuality or want to have an abortion or want to go ahead and chemically castrate themselves? You're okay with that, but a tattoo or some piercings are off limits, huh? That makes a lot of sense. Oh, by the way, you're saying that people can't make a decision when they're 18 to have a firearm or a gun, but you're saying they can lop off their penis or cut off their breasts when they're 6 years old? Joy, you make a lot of sense. In fact,
you make me happy.
Simple Joy, folks. She's in it to win it.
President DeSantis would ban artistic freedom of speech, of course. And
How? How do you ban artistic? Here,
You make me happy.
How do you ban artistic freedom of speech? Is something that you're going to go and collect paint and clays like Demi Moore and Patrick Swayze? You're going to do a posthumous, scene where they're going to have molding clay and the FBI is going to break in and shut them down. In fact, maybe that does sound pretty accurate considering today's FBI. Freedom of speech is a freedom. It's an inherent right. The government has no right to take it away or to give it. It is just innate in every single person who steps foot on U.S. soil. I'm sorry you've never read the Constitution. Simple Joy.
wield the federal government like a sledgehammer against businesses who do anything that displeases him and other members of the far right.
What, like not getting the vaccine, like not getting a shot, like not firing nurses, not resigning SEALs from their positions and military members since they won't get a vaccine. You won't wear a mask. You won't wash your hands the right way. You won't wear 3 masks. You won't go ahead and jump up and down and then spin in 3 circles and jump backwards 2 times. And therefore they shut down your business. Sorry, Joy, that's your party, not Republicans.
You make me happy.
She makes me happy. I love it when she does this. It just makes an easy show.
A national 6-week abortion ban? Make America Florida, am I right? You want to control your body anymore, ladies? Now, President DeSantis is going to do.
Chairman, we're not the ones that go ahead and wrap our lips around Maoism in China. That's, once again, the wrong party. It's interesting when they say this. We used all the rules and regulations. We sat by for 35 years where 67 million babies were ripped out of wombs. And then all we did was get a Supreme Court that went and looked at the Constitution and said, yeah, you can't slap stuff on the 14th Amendment that had no reason to do that. Murder is not a right to privacy. We're kicking it back to the states, which is what the 10th Amendment says. We followed the law. We followed that supposed democracy that you forget to and fail to mention as a republic, and you're still upset. A SCOTUS decision was just made yesterday, 9-0, 9-0 around EPA water rights, 9-0, which means liberal judges and conservative judges, that you call them that, all decided together on a 9-0. And what happened? Schumer stood up and said, this is a MAGA court. This is a MAGA right extreme court. What the hell are you guys talking about? You can't even get your talking points straight. Here you go. This is for Chucky Schumer.
You make me happy.
Yeah, absolutely. They look a lot alike. I'm just telling you.
And there is a model for what this little dictator in the making wants to do. Just look at China, Cuba, North Korea, Afghanistan.
Did you see how she called him a dictator? That's not right. I mean, it's better than a bitch-tater. No offense. And I don't even use that word. I can't believe I just said that. But that's what she is. She's a bitch-tater. I'm just saying.
Or Iran, where the government censors the media or force feeds a strict conservative religious ideology to children in schools.
Then why are we trying to buy gas for them? Why are we going and kicking money back? Why are we taking tariffs off of China? Why are we going ahead and trying to, say that the United States wasn't involved in the drone strike on the Kremlin that wound up being Zelensky? Why aren't we calling out the disinformation that's happening in Ukraine? I'm not pro-Russia. I'm just not pro-Ukraine either. I think I don't really care what happens to them. To sit here and say that we didn't want to go to war with 2 out of 3 of these countries shown, including Iran, which would make 3 out of 4 if we decide to put the Iranian clerics and the Ayatollah up here. There's a big difference between Republicans and Donald Trump, who for 4 years had no open conflicts, no wars. And these war hawks, including Hillary Clinton, wanted to go after Iran and North Korea simultaneously. Can we stop pretending that they didn't back off of Russia? Don't you remember what Obama said to Romney when he said, oh, yeah, well, we want 1980s and 90s wants their foreign policy back, when Romney said Russia was going to be one of the biggest threats to the United States. How do they feel now with their crow? Do they want it in pie form or cooked medium rare over light charcoal briquettes?
Deploys morality police to make sure you're wearing what they want, learning what they want, doing what they want. That model also happens to have a name, and it's
liberalism.
Totalitarianism, the political concept that the citizen should totally be subject to an absolute state authority. Yeah,
or communism or socialism. And look which party embraces that. Here you go, one more time for you, lady.
You make me happy.
I can't stop smiling. This is just great. This is cannon fodder.
DeSantis' proposal would also require a massive multi-trillion-dollar federal investment in a humongous bureaucration.
Is it called the Green New Deal? Is that what it is? Please show me the legislation that Republicans have on board. Any piece of legislation that starts with HR number that says we want to spend $1 trillion on anything besides defense. Please educate me. That's already been baked into the pie, lady. I'm sorry. It's crow pie. You're going to have to take another bite.
Control and squash unwanted wokeness. Let me guess. To get Mexico to pay.
Why did she say wokeness? Like wokeness. Here we go.
You make me heavy.
I'm a graphic designer. Do you know how long that took me to actually make it look as dumb as possible? It's difficult. I mean, it went against everything. It's like firing a weapon downrange and literally missing your target by 40 yards. It's not ingrained in me. I apologize.
Freedom from big government used to be a pretty basic Republican principle, but I guess that went out the window along with respect for democracy. That hasn't stopped other states from adopting the ideas of DeSantis-Stan. That doesn't make it a winning strategy. More on that.
DeSantis-Stan. Did you hear what she just did to the freedom-loving countries? Does everyone hear that, what she just did to Tajikistan and Afghanistan and Pakistan? You know, all of our friends and neighbors, how they basically called them totalitarian governments. I'm sure that's going to do really well on the political stage. Here's what it comes down to. Joy Reid is full of what she's peddling. The Democrats do this constantly. And there's people who are watching this and eating this up and absorbing it and believing that this is the truth. Now, I'm not saying Republicans are perfect. We're about ready to sign a bill that has absolutely nothing to do with the American people. We're going to increase the government size and footprint by $4 trillion, and McCarthy's leading this. I don't agree with it. I think every single Republican should strike it down. If we have to go ahead and fail the American dollar in order to save it, yeah, then we need the pain points. And I hate to say this because at the backs of the American people at $245,000 per taxpayer, it doesn't make sense. It's not sustainable. We cannot continue to spend and see the national debt increase. $32 trillion now. 25 some odd years ago, we were sitting around $1.5 to $2.5 trillion, depending upon what numbers you were looking at. Now, the spending is completely out of control. We will not be able to right the ship. We need a reset. We need something to take place to say, okay, if we default, we default. What does that look like? And maybe that'll get these politicians to actually take some responsibility and balance the budget for once and for all. But when we talk about Republican decisions and Democrat decisions, both sides of the aisle are making horrible ones. But when it comes to the overreach and the projecting that we're the party of racism and we're the party of totalitarianism and Maoism and socialism, it is just like them saying that the border is something that we want to go ahead and open, that we believe in defunding the police simply because we question the FBI. These things are 100% false. So, for the sake of Joy and her programming, Joy Reid, you get 5 simple jacks out of 5. Congratulations.
Make me happy.
Very happy, and thanks for doing this today. Folks, my name is Matthew Spear. I am the host of Don't Unfriend Me. Thanks for watching. Thanks for laughing. Joy, have a sense of humor. I'm sure you won't see this, but I'm sure all your followers will blow up and melt down and tell me why I'm wrong and why she is the greatest thing since sliced bread. That is, if you can find the bread in the food line. You can watch us tonight at 8 o'clock. Olivia and I will be on. Stop by, say hello. Come on to the show at The Dumb Show. And you can also go to thedumbshow.com if you would not mind. Pick yourself up a cool shirt, a hat, some coffee, whatever you want. We'll see you at 8 o'clock tonight. God bless. And please do me a favor. Be kind to each other because nobody else will.
I'm David Boreanaz with the Cast of SEAL team. And we have an important message for returning vets.
We want you to know if you're struggling to cope, there's help and it's just a phone call away.
The Veterans Crisis Line is staffed with experienced professionals who know your struggles.
There's no greater sacrifice in service to our country. We're able to enjoy our freedoms because of it.
Your service is important. You are important.
For vets and their families, the Veterans Crisis Line is here to help 24 hours a day. Please call